Everybody, Brady from BGWX here. We are live. We're going to be breaking down snow incoming tomorrow, and we are also going to be breaking down, another time to maybe keep an eye on down the road as well, and just overall thoughts for March. It's been a few days here since we've last produced some content for y'all, and we're going to get back to it. And listen, I love doing this, and again, for those rewatching, you can have the chapters, and we're gonna break this all down here on the snow expectations for tomorrow and what may be coming in the future. So, not my greatest intro, but we'll let the beat in the background carry. Again, welcome everybody. How are we doing? Brady here live. Again, we're gonna be breaking down what's to expect here coming up. We're going to be breaking down tomorrow's snow, who's going to be able to get some, and then we're going to be taking a look into March as well and what's on the table. Open up the chat here in a second. So let me get set up here. Here we go. All right, let's get the chat going here. Let's see what we got. Micah Phillips, welcome. Welcome. All right, we get set up here. Quieter times right now, but we're still active. We're still active here. We've been monitoring what's been going on, so don't worry. All right. How are we doing, everybody? That is not what I wanted. There we go. All right. Again, how are we doing? We're going to be breaking things down here and get set up here. A little hard drill to start things off here in the background. Don't mind it. All right. Send out a tweet, let everybody know we are live. Okay. Got our pen tool cooking. How are we doing, everybody? How are we doing? A nice little quiet break here. I know for me it's been getting able to relax at least a little bit, monitoring what's going on here, but a bit of active weather going on tonight. It's been a slush fest lately outside, so as we've gotten into the 40s here the past few days, certainly we've seen some melting go on. Unfortunately, I love seeing it. We still got a good snowpack, me personally. I don't know about you guys, but we're doing okay in terms of snowpack. All right. How we doing, everybody? How we doing? Let's get going here. Get more people to filter in naturally, but it is quiet times, so I'm not expecting a packed crowd tonight, but there are some interesting things to talk about here, I think, down the line and ongoing tomorrow. And I actually go to tidbits first so we can look at some soundings. All right, let's break it down. Okay. All right. So again, little is sneaky. So sneaky snow we got going on. So currently, you can see here's the OZ name. We're gonna take a look at. And you can see to our west, we got some rain going on right now. A little bit of maybe icy mix out in the Midwest, but uh, this is gonna change over to snow here as we can take a look. 850. Take a look here at our cold air is going to prevail and hold on a little bit. You can see we have cold air to the north here in Canada, and anytime we have cold air to the north, we like to talk about how sometimes it likes to hold on, sometimes a little bit better, and especially we're going to have a little nice warm air advection here, as you can see here. So the little rain to the south and a small little band of snow sets up then overnight, and it's going to be more focused over the Berkshires and into central Mass. So it will be small to see, but on the sounding, but this area. But take a look here. So it doesn't look amazing on the P-type map. You look at it, right? It doesn't look too crazy. Take a look in the dendritic growth zone here. Remember, again, I'm working. You can see we've done some reanalysis of some past storms over the past few days. We're also going to be doing, I'm working on creating that dendritic growth zone video. We're going to do a full breakdown stream on the dendritic growth zone. Basically, what we do is soundings, but we're going to take a look at all the, some major storms, especially in recent history. With some, and it'll basically be just a bunch of snowstorms in the past that look like this, and we're going to break it all down in the importance. So we'll be doing that upcoming here if we do have quiet stretch. If not, then we're going to be breaking down. We'll hold it off until then. But take a look here. Look at the lift we have in the dendritic growth zone. Look how well saturated we are. I'm gonna have a good feeling this was heavy wet snow written all over it here, and I think there could be even several inches in some of these higher elevation spots. But take a look. Even let's hear a sounding. That is not gonna cut it. It still might be snow, but go here to like Central Mass. You can see here we're kind of teetering that line a little bit, and take a look here. Once we get to about in the lower levels of the atmosphere, take a look. We start to get really close here, but if rates are heavy enough, you can see here about almost -1 omega. Um, that could allow potentially for dynamic cooling to override. So if we do have heavy enough rates, we could see that just north of 495, a quick burst of snow that could get you a coating to an inch of snow, and then maybe some freezing drizzle on the backside, and then it will switch to rain for pretty much everybody besides Maine. And take a look as we go into Maine here. Take a look at these soundings, right? This is powerful. Well, this is powerful snow sounding here. Heavy, wet snow, but take a look at how well saturated we are. The dendritic growth zone, how much lift we have here I mean, -4 omega in the dendritic growth zone. Take a look here. Our upper level cold air is actually pretty decent as well. It's just a low level cold air, not quite as prevalent. So that is going to make some problems in terms of getting really good ratios. But as you can see here, there's going to be, I think, at least several inches of snow across Maine, and then the higher elevations, especially too, by the White Mountains in New Hampshire. I expect them to be favored for at least 2 to 5 inches of snow out there. Maybe not. Maybe more potentially. Can't rule out maybe some localized pockets of 4 to 8 inches of snow, and then you can't even on the backside, obviously possibly some convective nature, to start worrying about for the Cape and Islands. But we're also going to see some upslope potential on the backside as well across Vermont, probably some more lake effect snow, right, across upstate New York that we're going to have to deal with. And then we're going to keep an eye on another system after that, right? So we kind of talk about what's going on there. It's nothing too crazy, but then we talk about what's coming in after. So we'll go back here, and this is the next, I think. This could be a little bit more wide, could get a little bit more people involved. Not necessarily heavier snow, but maybe a little bit more notable, a little bit more widespread of an event potentially here. Clipper-like system was what I'll phrase it as, because it's a little bit more unique here, but it is going to be like a clipper, whatever you want to call it. It's fine. You can see that's our current system. You can see moving through here, upper level energy 500, and then this is the next one I'm keeping an eye on here as we start moving towards this was initially that time frame. Remember, we talked about this not too long ago. We made a video and I highlighted this. So this is going to be that time frame here. I said anytime you get long range, and that's held, the right upper. Remember, it's all about upper level energy timing as well, and placement and organization, and hold as that doesn't always necessarily come together perfectly into fruition. Another thing we saw is this PV lobe here was overdone. We've seen that several times throughout the winter, where some of these PV lobes have been overdone in that longer medium range, and we saw this was a lot further south, and we had much deeper troughing here present. So now it's still still get a chance for snow, but maybe not quite as much. So I will say though, this is about that range where models have underestimated still kind of the press of our cold air with this system. So I wouldn't necessarily rule out here the potential for maybe to get to get a little bit more places further south involved. But take a look here. It's a clipper again. There's not going to be insane Arctic cold air, but we are going to start to watch here. Then an opportunity for maybe snow across a lot of it. I would say north of New York City here is going to have an opportunity potentially for some snow, especially north of 84, I would say, and into this region here across upstate New York, central New England, especially into Maine as well. I would say all have an opportunity. You can take a look at the Euro as well. You can see highlighting that idea as well, and this could allow for potentially some accumulating snow as well, potentially depending on the exact timing. But I would keep an eye on this too. This timing would be around Friday, Saturday is when we would have to watch for this to come through. And eventually, what I will say is, remember, it's not why I say it's not a complete. Well, I don't want to go so far to say it's not some special clipper, but take a look here at 500. Look at the dip we have and the dig we get in behind here on the jet stream. So I would keep an eye on here, and you can see, look at our upper level load trying to get going here across this region. I'd keep an eye here across Maine potentially for a little bit more extra with this system. Look at the dig that starts to come in here. Right, we see this dig in the jet stream start to happen. Again, remember the long wave ridging we have surrounding this system is going to allow for this to get vertical. Just a little too late, obviously, with the amplification here for anything too big further south. But I would keep an eye here. Again, I'll zoom in a little bit. It might be a little hard to see. I would keep an eye here on this region. I would keep an eye here for more potential, especially as we get further north and east into Atlantic Canada. I would keep an eye on there for maybe a little snowstorm potential as well with this. Not necessarily, too crazy totals for them, but notice the amplification start seeing the dig we get that doesn't quite start happening until later. And as that happens, that's going to allow for a little bit more moisture to get pulled into our system, more dynamic system in nature. Then we start keeping an eye on the that's the 18Z Euro as well. So I was like, why is the GFS not loading out more? And that's why, because it doesn't go out any farther. And then listen, I'm not in terms of accumulation possible. I would say 1 to 3, 3 to 6. Maybe I would keep an eye on again Maine for higher totals with that. This is where we start talking about Maine, right? Cashing in more with some of these events, and then things will moderate some, I think, a little bit over the course as we enter that first week of March. There could be upper air temperatures 850. That's right. Cold air comes in behind that system, right? So we're going to moderate a little bit back and forth. The Pacific will kind of nudge some warm air north. We'll probably moderate to an extent during this time frame potentially. How much? Yet to be seen, I think, though. I wouldn't. Hold up. I was like, what's going on here? Okay. There we go. To what extent, though, I'm not sure. It's a little bit muddy around this time frame. John, how we doing, my man? How we doing? So I would keep an eye during that time frame. But here's then the next time frame I think we got to keep an eye on for a dynamic system, regardless of snow or rain or whatever, is probably around this 5th to 7th time frame, where we got to keep an eye on. Again, not necessarily snow. Right? You can take a look at the P-type map. It's going to be flooded with rain potentially, but with some sort of dynamic system in this nature. once upon a time ago, we're seeing some snow on some of these model runs. You can take a look at a Canadian, for example. You can see a lot different with the exact orientation of the setup, but I would keep an eye for something dynamic down the road here, and you can see obviously again on paper not a terrible not a terrible threat for snow potentially further into the interior, but I wouldn't necessarily favor this region here, and I think south of New York City in general. For the rest of this, yes, John, we're doing great, Betty. We're doing great, my man. South of here, though, of New York City, I think it's going to be tough. You're going to need a really dynamic system to get some snow, and we can't rule that out here. We're going to talk about maybe another time frame down the line here, but just in terms of not necessarily snow, but dynamic storm potential here, I would be taking a look at this January 5th to 7th. You've seen some people mention the severe weather potential with this across further west and southern portions of the country, which certainly could be possible, but I'd be keeping an eye on the snow potential as well for interior New England. With that, we'll see kind of how models, do their thing a little. I don't have a super great feel, to be honest, but again, you can see cold air is rather displaced to the north here, and so that will make it a little bit tricky. But we will see that in behind the system comes a lot of cold air. As you can see, that gets dropped into our system, but cold air behind does not do us favors to get snow further south. So that's the unfortunate part, and it will depend on storm track as well. So again, not the smoothest analysis here necessarily, but just to give a little bit of context on what to expect upcoming here. And then I'm keeping an eye on. You don't really see much in this time, but I'd be keeping an eye on this time frame here, the 8th to 10th kind of as well. I think some of you have seen that time frame thrown around. I don't know what the P-type map looks like here, but you can see it gets that GFS ramps this thing up so much that it's unable to do that. Yeah, you're just classic. Your 930 millibar Atlantic low. So just normal GFS stuff in the long range. But we do see this. We do see these, happen in the long range, and again, they're messy. They're not perfect whatsoever. But again, we keep an eye here. I think on this time frame, around the 8th to 9th, 10th-ish, maybe a little bit somewhere in that time frame for potential. I think an actual maybe a snow threat, depending on the stream separation. We would be able to get here, because on paper there is some decent. This wouldn't do it. Let's see, 12Z today show it a little bit more, maybe a little bit more. You can kind of see that, but the idea is you have a tall. You can see the placement of our western ridge here, and then cold air filters in, and then again taller Atlantic ridging. So potentially for something to slide, and maybe you wouldn't even necessarily rule out some snow potential further south here. So that's why I don't say it's completely shut off, just harder. But I would probably favor more north of here potentially for any snow potential with storms, and more so especially northern New England, and that's just climatologically as well. It's not that's not breaking news by any means, but that's kind of where I would be keeping an eye on in the upcoming stretch. And also I'd be keeping an eye on folks in the northern Midwest as well, and then into upstate New York as well, like we just talked about. So again, nothing too crazy in this upcoming pattern, but the threat for snow will still, as we always see in March, will be there. Again, it's a little tricky to tell exactly what's in store, but I keep an eye on here. Again, it'll depend on stream separation and upper level, models working out their kinks and stuff. But see, we did have a Euro AI bomb, I think, in this range earlier, around 060. So we'll take a look back, kind of show you. Again, Euro AI now updated and upgraded, but you can kind of see here a little bit difference in these systems. You can see that works it out much quicker, much less dig than that OZ GFS. And then look at the stream separation you get here, and you allow a system to kind of ramp up and intensify, so to say. And so that would be something. You can see it kind of does it weaker does do it a little bit at 12. So again, different orientation, but you can see what I notice is a lot of changes run to run, and that tells me there's a lot of volatility and it's pretty muddy. Right? I don't have a clear cut. I don't have a great feel necessarily on March. I'm not going to lie. If I did, I would, be letting you know. I think it's going to moderate. I think some back and forth. I think it's going to be tough to lock in the cold the same way we have. Not just climatologically with sun angle, but also just the pattern itself shaping up calls for more in and out, moderating, warm, cold, and maybe some more persistence possible, uh, across central and northern New England. But I think there's still some opportunities, but it's not going to be, um, as favored to the south as it will be to the north here. That's kind of an idea of what we got coming up here. In the meantime, I just felt, we had to hop on and talk about, where we were heading with things. We haven't, I didn't want to do a video. I wanted to kind of stream and get my thoughts out clearly, kind of be able to talk it a little bit. Even though we're not gonna have a ton of people in a stream, right? Because there's not something pressing. Um, I like to be able to get my thoughts out, talking, especially for the people rewatching as well. Be able to, come on in and enjoy the interaction, get the questions that you do have, and kind of take a look here. We'll look at some of our ensemble panels as well. Let's go to US regions, Northeast. We're there already. Just want to take a peek kind of at some of these longer range ones. 18Z. We'll get some OZ ones tonight. So it's some long range. We have seen some pretty crazy long range panel runs here in the longer range. I have noticed taking a peep. I'm still looking. Again, nothing too crazy to make of any of these. Again, when I look at panels, I'm not looking for the full details here. You can see Canadian kind of showing some. A fair amount, but again, the idea is here in March, you have a chance to create potentially good thermal gradients, right? More warm air starting to be able to filter naturally, and then you're also still going to have cold air on tap. That's the thing, though. We're not losing our cold air completely. We are still going to have cold air on tap that can at least be used, and I think that's one thing I note upcoming here is we're not shutting off the winter potential here. Cold air is still on tap that can be used. I think we'll kind of moderate back and forth. But again, I'll note what has been the theme of the winter so far has been to stretch the polar vortex. It has not been. It hasn't, not necessarily been, in and out periods of warm and cold. It's been consistent cold, but it's been, in and out of the stretching of the polar vortex is one thing I will know. It's not been. We haven't seen a strong polar vortex be able to just, not get access to the whole winter. Get what I'm trying to say is we've had cold air to be able to use consistently due to the nature of the polar vortex being able to stretch so many times. And what's that allowed us to do is give us so many opportunities to see snow. And we've converted a lot of them in terms of seeing snow, but we have not converted a lot of the big ones. And that's what people will focus on ultimately. Until we do see one. Now, I will say there's certainly I wouldn't rule out that opportunity. Still here in March, would I favor it? I have nothing for me to favor a massive snowstorm for people in March, but I will say I think we will have a lot of opportunities for dynamic systems in March, and anytime we still have cold air on tap, that allows me to believe that at least a chance for potentially a notable snowstorm is certainly at play. Here for the Northeast, more specifically, I wouldn't necessarily say the Mid-Atlantic. Again, for me, I view the Northeast as north of Philly. That's just kind of me, but some people say south of New York City is Mid-Atlantic. I don't know, but I kind of look at it as north of Philly. But I do think we're going to have at least some potential for snow events upcoming here, as we noted. But I do think the potential for even snowstorms can't be ruled out, especially for the Northeast, more specifically upcoming here in this stretch throughout March. Just because we're going to continue to have. Let's take a look at the long range. Go to upper air, heights 500, height anomaly, America. You can see here in this time frame where this is why I'm watching this time frame here. It's going to depend on stream separation, obviously, but I am watching that closely. Then, again, this is just a matter of placement, obviously, in this time frame. But you can see, watch, potentially a polar vortex disruption down the line, and that would ultimately matter on exact placement of where this would happen. So again, I'm keeping an eye here down the line here. I don't have I don't have super, how do I phrase this? I don't have a ton of clarity in terms of how I think this could play out, but I'm not saying I'm not leaning quite in either direction right now. I have a little bit less clarity on this. I was confident that we'd have a good shot for a snowy February. I would say that verified. I don't, even though we didn't get the big storm, we certainly had a good amount of snow for many people. Um, you know, many seeing double-digit snowfall totals in the month of February, and then Northeast New England, we had, maybe Massachusetts specifically maybe didn't necessarily have an above average crazy February, but slightly, it was decent. I would say I don't think it was great, but we had a couple snowstorms and some light snow events as well, kind of mixed in front end thumps. But I do think down the line here, I'm still keeping an eye on is the polar vortex. Now I think we'll have some influence coming up here, and I'm keeping a close eye on exactly how that might play out here down the line. Again, it's all about placement. You can see here on the long range ensembles here, 340 hours out. We're showing it a little bit more favoring the central part of the country and more far interior Northeast in terms of exact placement. That's not necessarily a terrible pattern, actually. It's a little too far north than I would like that specifically. With the ridging specifically. 12Z? Is the OZ not out yet? Oh, that was 12Z jets we're looking at. It's fine. You can see it, but all models kind of showing potential, some sort of stretching event during that time, during the 8th to 10th, but then also maybe another stretching event, maybe some sort of disruption, maybe down the line here as we head towards mid-March. And a lot of people like to think there's some kind of specific, closed up for shop when it comes to March. There's no perfect science to weather, guys. A lot of people think there is the certain dates you hit. Like for some people, they think February 28th versus March 1st. It changes their whole perspective on how snow events work out. It's not a perfect science, guys. It's not. It's just not. You can see snow. You can see snow in April, and it's unlikely now at the further south you go. But you can see snow in April. You can even see snow in May. Now that's more focused on New England only, but you can. In March, you can definitely see snow still. Even into the south, I wouldn't favor it necessarily whatsoever. I wouldn't even favor the Mid-Atlantic necessarily right now either, but you can certainly still see snow in March, in big snow, as we've seen before. Notable examples for, widespread, snow events or snowy periods that would include, let's see, off the top of my head in recent memory, I would say around 2017, 2018, 2019, there was as well. Good March. I think 2020 as well, I believe. I don't think there was anything major in 2021 or 22. 21, there might have been like a moderate or a minor snowstorm in 21. But I don't think there was anything. That might have been April, actually, if I remember correctly. There might have been an April 1 in 2021. But let's see, can we go back? 2015, there certainly was somewhat active in March for sure. I remember that, at least early March. Uh, da, 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 20 I don't think 2016. 2016 wasn't really an incredible winter, as there was just one big storm, and that was kind of, and that helped a lot of people. I think 2014, 2014, yeah, 2013, maybe 2013 as well. But I'm trying to go off recent memory here, not date back too far, but you could use 1993 if you want to cherry pick way back. But obviously, big snow in March is certainly possible, and I think we've highlighted that obviously, um, not just now, but many times before. OZ Jep's not cooking out, unfortunately. Let's look here now. Nothing there. Still low down here on the ensembles, but yeah, figure we go over what's on story and also kind of talk about some of these. What I also want to do is just a little bit of fun here past snowstorms. Talk about some of the stuff that I've been looking at here. All right, here's what I posted last night. Pull this up here. Take your time. Here we go, X. I don't know why it takes so long for X always to open these up, but it does. All right, so this was, I think, a little bit of fun, a little bit of fun. Not necessarily trivia, but past snowstorm. I'll zoom in here a little bit. There we go. Just a little bit. Give you a look at on this date, 1969, and on I guess this rough estimate of a date, not necessarily one day. Often referred to as the 100-hour storm. Um, hit the eastern U.S. and specifically hit New England the hardest. Um, Lots of 30-inch totals. And take a look at this is an estimate of the snowfall totals, not an um, exact measurement. But New York City, a lot of 15 to 20 inches of snow reported, many 30 plus across into northern Connecticut, North Rhode Island, and much of Massachusetts as well, especially central and eastern Massachusetts. And then Mount Washington actually saw almost 100 inches. I think it was about 98, or I think 97.8 was what I read, and over 8 feet of snow. Can you imagine that? Over 8 feet of snow in about a 4 day span, pretty much. Incredible snowfall totals, as you can see. And this was kind of a unique snow setup here. The unique snow setup here. Here's a look at 700. We'll take a look. Take a look at 500 Vort here, though. Right, beautiful thing here, weather.us. You can go and look at any past snowstorm you want here. I mean, you can take a look here at this big dominating Canadian high we have to the north here, and then take a look at this massive negatively tilted trough here. big deep. It almost reminded me of, I didn't put it out there, but it reminded me of 2015, the orientation of the upper level energy here. But it's not well consolidated. You see that? It's like a trough within a trough almost. There's more upper level energy that needs to come around here. And that reminded me of almost like 2015 and 2021 kind of combined. That's what this one reminded me of. And this one was really an impressive an impressive event, right? Like I mentioned, that big Canadian high. We kind of cut this off from the flow here. Um, this dominating Canadian high, like I mentioned. And take a look here at the trough here, digging so deep, and we had this big time snowstorm. And then we'll take a look here at 700 and show you, just persistent moderate bands of snow for days. With this snowstorm here, again, 30 to 50 plus inch, and even almost 100 inches of snow here, Mount Washington. Again, around this time, mainly the 24th and the 25th. So here's about 63-hour loop I compiled, and then I lost count. I was going to go for 3 days, but I started losing count. I don't want to mess up. So it's about a 63-hour loop here of 700 millibar relative vorticity. So we talk about 700 millibar. This is relative. So this is exact band placement. When we look at this, and just take a look here. It's why I said it reminds me of a combo of 2015 and 2021, like that initial band coming on shore, like 2021 here, right? Pivots, sets up, but look at the more upper level energy still needs to round the trough. So all of this is coming in now through northern New England, and we're kind of pivoting bands here all over central and eastern New England, all the way down into southern New England, into New York City, and then also going back into upstate New York as well. And just for days, right, separated from the flow, a dominating Canadian high. And what this allowed to happen was, a major snowstorm. Excuse me, a major snowstorm, all as a result of this. So it was certainly a unique event, diving into some of the meteorology with this, and I was very, very, very intrigued by this. I always like to keep tabs on all past major snowstorms we've seen in setups, and that's why I love looking at the 500 millibar setups of these. And then another one I took a look in. Wasn't on this date, but I found very, very interesting as well. Since we haven't been too active, won't take too long to find. I believe was December 13th, 2007. Then take a look here. All right, the traffic nightmare storm. Some call it. Let's open this up here. Here's a look at radar. I'll open it up. Right. Unfortunately, we don't have radar from 1969. Not with this quality, at least. So, as you can see here, right, there's BGWXHQ. Simple, quick-hitting storm, but packed a punch here. Consistent, and went all the way back here to northern PA as well, but consistent 1 to 2 inch per hour rates here across a lot of this region, and the timing fell right in the evening commute. And you can take a look back here. 500 volt wasn't too crazy. Not a super organized area at 500 millibar vort, but you can see here at 500 millibar height anomaly honestly reminded me a little bit of our current setups that we've been having, where we've had a dominating Pacific Ridge, cold air to the north, southeast ridge, and that baroclinic zone setup. A little bit different orientation, but not too far off, honestly, but from what we have been dealing with, and dominating almost a double barrel Pacific high out here, and cold air dislodged to the north, southeast ridge, going to drive up that moisture up the coast to meet that cold air. And that's exactly what we did. Created that thermal gradient, and boom, just to the north, right, there's your warm air, right? We talked warm air advection event, and boom, we saw about 8 to 12, a widespread 8 to 12 plus inches of snow, and most of it fell in about a 7-8 hour time frame. So again, that's it's very significant. Imagine like a February 2021 or January 2022, something like that, in terms of how in and out quick, but heavy the event is, but the timing caused for very significant I would call it more than a traffic delay. Is what I would call it. Some cars had some people had to leave their cars behind. Um, so not one of New England's finest travel moments there, but again, just wanted to kind of point out some of these past weather events that I've been diving into here over the course of this process. Again, we're putting together content here, uh, or putting together knowledge here for content on the dendritic growth zone video that we are going to be doing upcoming here. As I drink some agua, because if we do not have any snowstorms to track upcoming here in March, then that's where a lot of my time and energy would go, and potentially do also some snowstorm reanalysis as well. Those I know have been pretty popular in the past, so we'll probably look to do some of those as well. Probably 2016 maybe towards the top of that list, because I get more people bringing that storm up in my mentions than probably anything else. But so potentially that's one we would do if we were to do a blizzard reanalysis. Is the Euro out yet? Oh, it'll be coming soon. Is the Canadian out yet? All right, starting to come out. A little delay in the Canadian, it appears, that we had. Okay. In the meantime, we can keep a long range GFS here. See if we have any fun. Fun for severe weather, folks. Not super fun for winter weather folks, unfortunately. Little fun. Little fun out there. Lines up kind of with the ensembles, but we'll see how they shift. I'm not favoring any region quite right now. I think we kind of moderate back and forth at the moment, and then we'll keep an eye on mid to late month again to kind of see if, depending on the exact placement and orientation of the polar vortex, that's where I would be keeping an eye on personally. Upcoming, I think the polar vortex is going to be, much more of an important factor. It always is an important factor, but it's going to be, I think, one of the main drivers upcoming here, because we have a less favorable natural sitting pattern, I guess is what maybe you would call it. Maybe not lacking a dynamic nature potentially, but I wouldn't necessarily say uh, as favorable of a pattern as we've seen, just because also too, you got to remember we're not, longer, uh, you know, longer days. Also, snowpack melting doesn't necessarily help keep cold air as well. Just we're moving towards spring, and that's how it works. In March, it is harder to get snowstorms just naturally than January and February. That's why oftentimes February is the peak snowstorm month, and same with January. Uh, although we have had many times, again, even in those bigger months, they are oftentimes polar vortex driven. So we are going to need some cooperation here from the polar vortex if we are going to see if we're going to see some significant snow, so to say, come in March. So we are going to need some cooperation there. Let's see. Euro. All right, Euro's starting to load out. We'll take a peep on that. Probably not the longest crazy string tonight, but we'll go as needed. People have questions, we'll go into depth of that. We're going to look at seasonal snowfall in a second here, but again, that time frame I would keep an eye on too for maybe it'll depend on the stream separation. I'm going to cherry pick just to show an example, but it would be around this time frame. It would be around this time frame here, March 8th to 9th ish, even into the 10th. That's kind of where I would be peaking down the line, so to say, for interest. Initially, maybe I thought that 5th through 7th, but seems like that is going to be a little. I would still keep an eye on that though. Northern New England. I would still keep an eye on that for Northern New England, but wouldn't certainly favor places further south, but show you, no, filter all. You can see there, and there was your big, big snowstorm run you have. You certainly, March can oftentimes be one of our most dynamic winter months because it's that, it's the last, of the colder air from winter, and then along with the initiation of spring, where we start mixing, warm air and cold air at ease a little bit more, and we create some pretty good thermal gradients, and then also with the long wave ridging and troughing pattern we're going to have as well. You combine both of those things, I certainly think all it takes is to be able to get one of those to get the right setup here in March, and you can be able to get a snowstorm. Now, and that's like the angle we take to look. I'm not favoring it necessarily, but at the moment, but certainly something we have to keep an eye here going forward. There's your 06Z and 12Z, and then your AI does come out sooner as well now, which is the good news with that. See, on 12Z, it was offshore. 18Z, much further offshore. Not enough stream separation. All right, let's take a look at our seasonal snowfall here. Go to east. That's 14-day season to date. That's what we got cooking right now. 360-inch max up here in Tug Hill. It's been a great lake effect here. Again, consistent. Anytime we get consistent cold air from the north here, that flow off the lakes is going to support this area here to be able to cash in. Oftentimes upslope potential here in the mountains as well, and then also just that lake effect snow that comes off the lakes themselves. It's been a great winter for the lakes. A lot of my Twitter friends from the Buffalo and Tug Hill have certainly cashed in for sure. And again, it's been a very solid winter for the mid-Atlantic as well. Obviously, we had our snowstorm localized here along Virginia Beach as well into Elizabeth City. I believe 12, good 10 to 15-inch localized area. So even outperformed my expectations. Mine was a kind of like a 4 to 8 floor with an 8 to 12 ceiling, 8 to 12 plus inch ceiling, and they certainly exceeded our expectations. There was that early last week, maybe. Yeah, I think so. So they did great. We had this historic Gulf snowstorm as well, as we'll have a close here on meteorological winter, I suppose. But take a look here. We had Midwest have a couple of major storms as well, and it's just been a widespread winter for snow. It hasn't necessarily really, besides I guess what maybe localized in this area. Well, outside of these three areas, I guess I would so to say, it has not been some crazy winter. It's been a lot of widespread snow across the region, and oftentimes consistent snowpack as well with that. So we'll see over the course here. I'm sitting at, we'll zoom into here to the northeast. I'm at 34 inches currently. So look at that. It lines up pretty well. You can see Worcester at 33.6. I'm about here-ish more, somewhere around here-ish. And Grafton, Mass. So lines up pretty well. Again, these aren't exact, but it's a general idea. And so it's been a pretty decent. Obviously, you can see here the February storms made out just a little bit better for some of these areas that were lacking up here initially, and they've certainly caught up and surpassed some places to the south as well over the course of this winter. A little bit of a screw zone further south, I suppose, in here, but I still think it's been an overall decent winter. Maybe that's just my opinion, but in terms of being a winter, of being cold and snowy, I think it's been a pretty decent one. Has it been major snowstorm snowy? No, but you can't say we didn't have the opportunities. Like I put in all my winter outlooks. I don't make a full on winter outlook really, but I make a whole FYI winter outlook posts is what I do. As you guys have known for the past few years now on why I think winter outlooks are an outdated method to show what's going to be in store upcoming for winters, and the problem I have with them is because it's kind of just a guessing game. And so in those, I'll always put you're never guaranteed. Cold does not mean snow, and warm does not mean rain versus snow either. The two do not are not the most they don't have an extreme correlation, and I think that is a big thing that people misunderstood about this winter. That this was the first winter in a long time where there was cold in place, but it was not snowy. It was the first winter in a very long time. And I put it in every winter outlook for the past, that I do winter outlook in quotes. My hand is doing currently, but it does not mean that you're gonna get snow. The same way it doesn't mean when you're in above average temps. That does not mean that it's gonna be, when it's above average temps. It doesn't mean it's gonna be below average snow. That's how I should have phrased it more. Below average cold does not always correlate with above average snowfall, and above average temps does not always correlate with below average snowfall. So I like to make that clear before we go head into each winter. Good picture view out there of what's been happening. Obviously, lots of lake effect. I think I saw, what was it, like it was like 55 out of 56 days in a row in Buffalo has recorded snow, like an absurd stat. An absurd stat. All right, let's go to models here. Zoom down. We'll definitely stay on for the Euro here. It's kind of taking its sweet time though. Did we have a delay or something? Or no? No, okay, it's low now. That's what the Euro did for our Clipperish system here. Ideally, with this system here, the more dig we can get earlier, the more snow we can get out of this system, further south as well. I'm fine with continuing to press on this. If you want to get more snow, especially in New England here, um, further south in New England here, right? For me, it's anytime we can get snow, I'm going to take advantage of it. Never going to deny it. So the more we can kind of press on this system here, but more especially as well, dig earlier. You can see here, back here. That's what I like to do. So kind of a little bit of a windshield wiper over the past couple days. Here with some of these model runs, you can see the Euro, just the P-type map. You can see still focusing it further north, but getting some of that snow, a little bit some for southern New England. Again, no, it's not going to be a super super high ratio snow further south, but certainly some accumulating snow is possible. And central to northern New England favored for the most at the moment as well. Euro AI is showing that as well, favoring further that central into northern New England area as well, along with the rest of guidance. We'll kind of see how the Euro plays out. And again, the Euro AI does come out earlier now. Is it 2 a.m. I think now? I'm pretty sure. It did come out at 2 initially, but you had to go to the ECMWF site itself, and you wouldn't get really all the parameters. So little bit different now, but all right. See what our good old friend the Canadian did here, Ozzy. Not a lot of stream separation during that time. It really ramps up this bad boy. Ensemble still stuck at 12Z, unfortunately. Probably won't be out for a good amount of time. Also, we will be doing severe weather this spring as well. I'm not sure March we will. And I'm not sure, I don't know exactly how we're going to do things um, come severe season, if we're going to start expanding out for all the severe weather events. Are we going to just focus on the eastern U.S. ones across, the Great Lakes and East Coast? I don't know exactly yet. We've done that in the past. Um, I don't know exactly how. Obviously, we're branded. Our specialty here is winter weather. Obviously, that's no secret. Winter weather, and then hurricanes, and then severe weather. Just because there's so many smart severe weather people out there that, what am I necessarily going to add? So much more than than them. There's just so many. The storm chasing community has so much out there already, and I'm not an expert storm chaser whatsoever. So an amateur. So I will be storm chasing. I will be doing all that fun stuff come springtime. And hopefully we can get some active, thunderstorms so we can chase that. Hopefully not too many tornadoes that do damage, but hopefully some open field tornadoes would be nice to see. But we will be doing all that active. We will be active, that's for sure, upcoming here in the spring. It's just too messy. Too messy here. Otherwise, maybe could have. Maybe could have. It's hard. You do oftentimes have to thread the needle, though. The polar vortex orientation like that. On paper, in the long range, certainly intriguing setup. Not like it drastically changed, just all about the right timing and placement and consolidation of upper level energy. And it is, I don't think people realize it's how much of a golden age we've had of major snowstorms over the past, I would even say almost 20 years now. But, certainly it can be very difficult. And a lot of people, we have a lot of younger people too who have grown up in a time where all they've seen is snowstorms and expect it. And that is troubling, um, because then it creates expectations for something that doesn't necessarily, over the course of time itself, very long time, doesn't necessarily always quite play out like that. All right, just kind of letting the Euro play out here. Keep at the GFS ensembles as well. What we do. Again, not a crazy long stream, but um, I feel guilty when I don't provide you guys too many updates. But just know if I'm not typically unless I'm something in my life something crazy is going on, bearing that I would yeah it means we're quieter at least at the moment. But even in the quieter times, we are still going to. Yeah, I hate it. Skips a lot. Sir skips a lot. That's what we call this Euro run here. Oh, I missed this 12Z run. Keeping the long range here. Again, this is kind of the soonest time frame I would be looking at, but I wouldn't say soonest, but soonest isn't even a word, I think, but just something I'm looking at. We'll see a million changes with this, but it's a time frame I'm curious about. I will say one thing I also noted too. One thing I've seen with the Euro AI is there has been some long range amplification, possibly biased at times. Is one thing I've noticed here in kind of that 8 to 12 day range. So way in the far out. It's done much better once it gets. Well, I found once it gets in 5 days, I found it's done better. But um, like the 200 plus hour range, and that's not uncommon for any models necessarily, but you just got to point it out. It's a new model, and we're trying to learn it as what it is. But one thing I've noticed is it has done some over amplification at times in this range, so that'd be something I would keep an eye on going forward here. We'll see as we get to learn this model a little bit better. So yeah, so it'd be something I would keep an eye on there. Obviously, it's an operational model run, but it'd be something I'd be keeping an eye on in this time frame. Ideally, given the orientation, a less persistent uh, western ridge or a taller western ridge. You've heard me say that a couple of times this winter. Would be nice so we can allow. Try not to press things out too much in behind that system, but that is still pretty far out. So no need to really overanalyze the specifics that far out. So yeah, so you obviously can see there. So this kind of around this time frame, I'd be keeping an eye on down the road. I know it's very, very far out, but I would keep an eye on it down the line. Now, at least we're able to identify there's going to be snow out of this. No major storm, but we were able to kind of identify it, so to say, a little bit. Weren't able to get the right orientation of the upper level energy here to offset how strong the high pressure to the west is pressing. So not a lot of room for upper level energy to come on in and amplify. Just kind of flow gets pushed, late amplification. So it's the clipper like orientation. And that's kind of what we had in December and January for some of those systems. But much more Atlantic ridging present at this time. So that's why this is going to take off way up here. If we play this out, you will see that. This storm goes way up. Look at that. Big old storm up by Greenland it turns into. So, yeah, so that's kind of what's on tap upcoming here. Let's see. Let's take a look at our panels for this range. Still some members showing some fun during that time, but almost none showing too much in northern New England for a fifth or seventh time frame. But I wouldn't still rule it out for northern New England. Wouldn't rule it out. So yeah, so that's what is on tap upcoming weather-wise, like we've kind of discussed here. And then upcoming here personally, what we're going to be doing here, like I mentioned earlier, is I'm currently working to I'm basically doing a bunch of reanalysis of past storms here, and I'm trying to find ideally more recent. 1969 one kind of just sparked my interest. This one here that we were talking about. This bad boy. Here we were talking about that was sparked my interest. But upcoming here, we're going to be doing just like we take a look at soundings a lot of times, where it's basically it's going to be a full stream on how to break down basically soundings for snowstorms. What the best soundings are. I've take a lot of pride in being able to break those down, and those are what really a lot of times what go into making my snow maps, those soundings directly. And so they're super important. I think they're a very important tool for utilizing when it comes to when it comes to making snow forecasts. And I can't emphasize enough how much importance I think it has if you're curious and trying to learn this stuff better. Soundings make a huge difference because those Kachera maps, those 10-to-1 snowfall maps, all those P-type maps, they can you can kind of you don't have to worry about what those look like, if you can break those soundings down. So that is one thing that we're going to be doing upcoming here. So we're going to be, I'm going to go into the old Twitter advanced search, and I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff there and just some actual searching and myself, and we'll be able to break down some stuff there, hopefully. And it will be a stream of me breaking down soundings from, ideally of, all of the most recent, biggest snowstorms that we've had, ideally over the course of the past decade or so. And we can just have a lot of fun, reminiscing. So if we continue to remain quiet here upcoming, then expect that to be in terms of, it's not necessarily quiet in terms of weather, but in terms of snowstorm potential, expect that to be upcoming, where we're still going to have more winter content, um, upcoming there. But in the meantime, we are going to be, following to see if we get some snow tomorrow morning out of this, along and north of the Pike. And then we're also going to be seeing upslope potential behind that, and then potentially a clipper minor snowstorm maybe for northern New England, depending on where you live. Especially, I would look at Maine for this system here. Be looking at that area for the best shot for the most accumulating snow. And that's what we got coming up here. So that is what's on store. And then also potentially, if we, again, like I said, we continue to remain quiet, we don't have any, necessarily a major dynamic storm to track in the Northeast, then we will be doing we'll be doing a breakdown stream. We'll probably try to do some reanalysis breakdown streams of, again, like I said earlier, probably 2016, if I had to guess. It's where we would maybe start with that. But until then, we're gonna keep a close eye here. Again, if you would sum it up, if you just came in, you're curious what I'm looking at down the line here. Don't mind going over that again. Again, if you just came in, you're curious, when's the next potential storm? Next potential storm, I would say, is March 5th to March 7th. The best snow potential is probably after that, and it's far out, so it's hard to say specific in terms of snow potential, but I would say around here. It's 8th to 10th-ish maybe time frame. And again, though, I think we moderate a little bit until we keep an eye on maybe the specifics of a polar vortex stretch or disruption, a more significant one. And the placement of that. If it's too far west, again, like you see in some of these long range, if we see this further west, then it is going to be a warm March, and it's going to be very hard to get snow potential here in the east, and severe weather season will probably get cranking out here, if I had to guess. If it's further east, then we'll have continued snowstorm potential at least into here, north of New York City, if I had to guess. Can't always roll it further south in a dynamic system, but that's what we got on tap going forward. All right, we don't need to hold anybody hostage here and let the milk go rotten. So we're gonna call it here. I appreciate everybody coming in. Again, if you have more questions, you can comment below, or you can put it in the chat. Try to stay after I close the stream, but I appreciate everybody coming in, and that's gonna do it for now. Appreciate y'all.